A week from today, we'll be reacting to Utah's first game, and we'll, for the first time, get to see what is my biggest question about Utah football in 2024, the offensive line. We're breaking down the O block and how we expect them to perform this fall, as well as talking about some of the top players in Utah high school football. All that and more coming up on today's loaded Locked On Utes.
You are Locked On Utes, your daily podcast on the Utah Utes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for making Locked On Utes your first listen every single day. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. If this is your first time listening to our show, make sure you like and subscribe. Love interacting with everyone in the YouTube comments as well as on social media, where you can follow our show at Locked On Utes on X. If you're in the market for a second listen, check out Locked On College Football or Locked On Big 12 as we gear up for football season. This is our last Friday without football for a very, very long time, so I am really excited about that. Today's episode of Locked On Utes is brought to you by our friends at Ultimate College Football Head Coach. Ultimate College Football Head Coach is a brand new mobile game that is completely free, has no ads, and 100% playable offline. Use the promo code Locked On Locked On CFB, all caps inside the game. You can get that and use it in the game store to receive a free boost to your program. Begin your coaching legacy today. My name is JT Wistrcill, former intern inside the University of Utah Athletic Department, and we have one position group left to preview on Locked On Utes, so I wanted to bring on one of my personal favorite guests who does a great job breaking everything down, no matter what the position is. Moose Bingham joins me now, former Utah kicker, recruiting extraordinaire, and Moose, we had a really fun discussion about the offensive line last time you were on when I talked about them being a big question, so fired up to have you back on for this one.
Well, I'm excited. I'm glad you respect my Little League play at offensive center. Just saying, my last season, undefeated. The high school team was scouting me, and they're like, we need a dominant offensive lineman. So they looked elsewhere. They said, you can kick the ball. But I'm excited to talk about O-line. My dream was to be Jeff Saturday, and my secondary dream was to talk about the Utah offensive line with JT Wistrcill.
Hey, there we go. Jeff Saturday is an elite pole, by the way. Could you snap at least back when you played center?
Please. I was an elite snapper, an elite blocker. We even had a 2-point play when I said, get behind me. No one's stopping me. We've got the chugga choo-choo right into the end zone.
I love it. Hey, better than me. I started my senior year of high school football at center. I got fired halfway through the season because I couldn't snap. So better than me, my friend. I'll tell you that one on the snapping front. But thankfully, Utah doesn't have to worry about their snaps because these guys are obviously college offensive linemen. And look, the Utah offensive line is kind of started to get settled in. Recently, both I've seen Josh Furlong of KSL.com and Steve Bartle of KSL Sports both write about what the projected Utah offensive line is going to be. So we're going to go in and preview the offensive line, starting from the tackles, moving to guards, then finally talk about the center. And at the end of the show, Moose does call games each week for KSL Sports Rewind, so I want to get his thoughts on some of the top players in the state of Utah as Utah's recruiting efforts are nonstop. Let's start with the tackles. As I mentioned, first one, the projected starter at left tackle is Caleb Lomu, the 4-star get for Utah in the class of 2023. Look, he's a guy that this will be the first time we've seen him, and this is why the offensive line to me is still the biggest question Utah has, because there are so many unknowns on this roster. To me, it's the one position where no one on it returning we've seen play at an elite level. So that's why it's a big question to me. So first, Caleb Lomu. I think Caleb Lomu is going to have a really good year. He's a 4-star. He took that year to be able to sit back, grow his body, get ready, and now he has the opportunity to start. So I feel good about him at the left tackle spot, but that is still a lot of pressure protecting the blind side for a quarterback like Cam Rising, who has some injuries. So I'm still going to be interested to see how he performs, although I do trust him. And I think Spencer Fano should settle in well on the right side, right? We've talked about it before. We called his games before when he played nothing but right tackle at Timpview, and he had his ups and downs last year. I've talked about that a lot on this show, but it does feel like he should take a big step this year. Freshman to sophomore jump is a thing. So I do feel about as good as I can feel about Utah's tackles with them not have playing at a high level, because after this year, I expect to be talking about how both of them played at a high level.
Yeah. So, JT, have you ever gotten in a fight before?
Back in third grade. So it's been a bit, my friend.
Okay. So did you punch that guy? How'd you punch him? Did you close your fist?
Probably not. I was in third grade, so I probably did not make a full fist of that. I'd like to say I did on this show and be a man, but like I probably did not realize how to make a fist in third grade.
So the nice thing with the offensive line is just like a fist when you go to punch someone, no one's sticking out. And we don't have any fingers sticking out and any problems. That's the beautiful thing. This is a unit that cohesion plays the biggest part. And you've got guys that are willing to bleed for each other. They're willing to do things. I went up to Utah this offseason. Jaron Kump was hanging out with all these guys. He's a leader on the offensive line. You got Fano. He's an outlandish, great human being that's going to do far better things in his life than football. You have Lomu. He's a little quieter, but he is still such a stud. And with these tackles, I have no problem not having the returning all-stars that are demanding all this NIL money, that need the X, Y, and Z. We have guys that are blue-collar, they're ready to work, and they're fantastic human beings. Give me those guys 10 times out of 10 than the guy that's demanding, and sticking out. This is what we're going to have at Utah. We're going to have phenomenal tackles because we've got a great coach. And behind them, we've got Z Williams, who's pretty good as well, and Falcon Kamotelu, who's been waiting, just chomping at the bit. And I think Falcon's a good player as well. Big body, big kid. And if Lomu and Fano are coming in and beating him out like that, my goodness. But we've got another freshman just waiting in the wings in Ike Garcia that's like, I want to be on the field. So what I love about this, even though we're starting younger guys, there's guys behind them that are chomping at the bit. They want it, and they want to take their job more than life itself. And I love to see that. And if these guys are solidifying themselves this much, it just shows me the growth between the first and second string. And that's music to my ears, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it's great that this Utah offensive line has the great coaching of Jim Harding. And to your point, iron does sharpen iron. And we both hinted at it a little bit, Moose, but can you just speak as someone who has played college football, worked in the recruiting world, coached college football, how big the development is, especially for offensive linemen, year one to year two?
So you look at, let's take Fano, for example. Fano showed up on campus, probably soaking wet, 255. And then, like, that's where he was at the end of his senior year. I'm like, dude, we look real similar. Similar build, you're just a little taller. After the season, he put on weight. He put on weight, and he put on weight, and he got to 300 pounds. Going from 255, 260 to 300 pounds, that's 40 pounds you're not used to carrying around. That's like, what is it? 10 milk jugs? I don't know the math, but I'm trying to give someone just that alliteration. He wasn't used to his body. Now that he's had a full season of going through the strength program, he's grown into his body. He looks good. He looks like he can do backflips and whatnot. You're like, okay, you're ready to go. And the jump isn't just like, hey, he's going from freshman to sophomore. He's going from 18 to 19. He is growing into his body. Is he going to be perfect? Heck no. But is he going to be gosh darn close? Yes. And that's what I'm excited about. I think Fano, and the other thing, I really like that Caleb Lomu was able to steal reps last year. He was able to go against Anai and great defensive linemen and get his trash kicked. And he was doing that on scout team. If you go against the number one defense in the Pac-12 week in and week out, you're going to learn a few tricks every so often.
Absolutely. It feels like these guys are in line for a big year. Once again, my trepidation is we just haven't seen them do it. And Fano last year had some rough spots, but thrusting a true freshman out there on the offensive line is honestly probably the toughest position for a true freshman to play in probably all of college football. So I do think that was a tough spot for him to be in. And he still performed really strongly for a freshman, I thought. So I'm excited for both these guys. Think they are going to be worthy protectors for Cam Rising. But of course, they don't make up They don't make up the entirety of the offensive line. The interior is also key because if you get interior pressure, that can ruin everything. So how does the interior of Utah's offensive line currently look? That's what we are going to be discussing on Locked On Utes in one moment. But first, want to talk with you all a little bit more about our friends at Ultimate College Football Head Coach. Hey, Locked On Utes fans, I want to take a moment to give you a heads up on a brand new mobile game that I think you're going to love as much as I do. Ultimate College Football Head Coach. In this amazing game and simulation, you get to step inside the shoes of a head coach and lead your college football program to glory. Can you imagine actually being the head coach of Utah, let's say, from recruiting players, hiring coaching staff, to overseeing training camps and handling school scholarships, which is easier said than done? You control every crucial detail of your program. It's all in your hands. Will you be able to handle the pressure? And honestly, here's what I really love about the game. You are responsible for calling offensive plays during the game. Your strategy will not only determine the success of your football season, but will shape the future and legacy of your program. Ultimate College Football Head Coach is completely free and has no ads and is 100% playable offline. You can go play on the go as you want and when you want to. And of course, we have a special offer here at Locked On Utes. You can use the promo code LOCKEDONCFB, all caps, once again, LOCKEDONCFB, to go inside the game store and receive a free boost to your program. You can make sure to take advantage of this perk as it will get your team off to a strong start. To download the game, just visit ultimate-cfb.com, ultimatecfb.com, or look it up on the App Store. Ultimate College Football Head Coach. Begin your coaching legacy today. As a reminder, we also have our Locked On College Football Big 12 preview. We did one for every conference as well. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to make it on, but Drake Toll still made sure to include me in the very opening line. And Utah, some fun discussions by the other Big 12 hosts at each level of Big 12 school too. So if you guys want to learn more about the new conference that Utah's in, make sure you head over and check out Locked On College Football's Big 12 preview. Speaking of preview, Moose Bingham still with me. We're previewing the Utah offensive line. We just dug our toes in and talked about the tackles. Now let's talk about the offensive guards. So we're talking about the guards. You're going to get guys in. First is Michael Mokofisi. He's started for a few years now. He's had his struggles in pass protection, but this is his third year. You grow each year, and he still had some really nice moments as a run blocker, and I do think the good with him is overall outweighed the bad, although there has been some rough spots. Then to Noah Tongai, he is the guy that split a lot of time with Spencer Fano last year. Sounds like he's kicking it inside the guard, according to those earlier reports that we talked about, including the story from Steve Bartle and Josh Furlong. And he was fine at tackle last year. Whenever he was in there, I didn't really notice if it was him or Fano. I thought they were very comparable. So I feel he's another guy, like a year of improvement. I feel good about him. So I feel solid about Utah's guards. Want to see them continue to rise their level of play, but based on the sample size last year for Tongai and what we've seen from Mokofisi, I feel like Utah's still good at guard, Moose.
Good. Goodness gracious. Negative Nancy on the other line here. They're great. Come on, man. We've got two juniors here. They're phenomenal kids. Mokofisi, honestly, when he was getting recruited, he was a D lineman. What?
You can't do I hate it when people do this. You can't do the phenomenal kicking. That's not what this is about. We're talking about them as football players. I'm sure they're fantastic guys. I'm just talking about what we saw from the blocking, but please don't start with they're great kids, because then it makes me seem like just the jerk who's jumping on these college guys.
Okay, you're absolutely right. I apologize about that. So these phenomenal, fantastic human beings that JT, just kidding, JT. Let's talk about their play, most of all. They're all great kids, and I love them like my own. But most of all, these kids are juniors now. They're redshirt juniors. When Tanoa and Michael Mokofisi came into the program, they had what happened to a lot of kids at the U. They saw themselves playing D-end. They're like, I'm a starting D-end, and that's where I'm going to be, and I'm going to dominate at Utah. Utah has the ability to flip those guys to the offensive line and have great, great success with it. But it takes 2 or 3 years. The technique for an offensive lineman is so much different than a defensive lineman. It's not pin your ears back and go get the quarterback. It's understand what the most dangerous 5 guys are coming at you. It's understanding who to let go to the running back. It's understanding how quick the ball needs to get out. It's understanding where the movement of the quarterback goes. Because with Cam Rising back there, he's been there for 22 years. So they know where he's going to move. I mean, ever since he took over for Alex Smith and Brian Johnson, he's been phenomenal. That was a joke, Utah fans. I know there's been a plethora of quarterbacks.
I genuinely was like, is he tripping up? And I thought what he was doing. I was like, oh, that was good. That was good.
Yeah. But here's the thing. Both those guys I really like a lot. Mm-hmm. And I think that knocking them inside, playing guard is a lot easier because you're getting help from the tackle and the center. And you're just like, okay, I got to do my assignment. And I don't have to worry about what's going on at the edge, but I can help out my tackle if needed. I can help out my center if needed. And they're probably going to go against a lot of 40 defenses, meaning that there's going to be guys right over their nose that it's take this guy on, win your one-on-one battle, and get down the field. And when that happens, good things happen for Utah. Because it doesn't matter who's at running back. Both these guys can help those guys rush for 1,000 yards at least.
You're right. They will. But first, as run blockers, I have a lot of confidence in them. And I'll just say overall, I think they will do a solid job. Just want to see it come all together and see how it all works out. But unfortunately, I don't get to stop being critical of the offensive line. And I want to say this about Utah's projected starter at currently, based on what's been reported in Jaron Kump. Everything we've heard is Jaron Kump is a great guy. He's a great contributor, and he's helped this Utah team out in some tough spots. But I do feel like for the most part, they have been better along the offensive line when he has not been in there. You look at back in 2021, Bam Olaseni in at left tackle. Once he was emerged there, Utah was better there. In 22, he was not part of Utah's run to the Pac-12 championship, really played very sparingly along that. And I just did not think the experiment with him at center went great last year, especially against Oregon State. I felt like he really struggled in pass protection, particularly to pick up the different twists and stunts and things that they were bringing in his direction. So in the past, I felt like the Utah offensive line has been better with Johnny May or whoever's been in there. And if it was me, I would be starting Johnny Maya. But based on what's been reported is that Jaron Kump's going to be the starter. And I'll say two reasons why I'm coming around on what are still negative concerns I have. Number one, in Jim Harding, we trust. Number two is that Jaron Kump is, by what you said and everyone has said, a fantastic leader. And if he's the leader of this group, then I want him out there too. And if he's a leader too, he's led by play with his example. So I'm hoping that Jaron has made those improvements. I'm hoping he has a monster year. I'm hoping he makes me eat my concerns and make them look ridiculous. But based on what I've seen during his time at Utah, I have to be a little concerned.
Let me get you some red goggles because that's what I'm wearing right now. Both Jaron Kump and Johnny Maya are kids that I love. Let's start out with that. I had Jaron Kump committed to BYU at one point, and he said, deuces, I'm going to the U. And I'm like, okie dokie. That sucks for me. And then I tried to get Johnny Maya to come over. I was like, take an official. And he's like, no, I'm good. I'm like, fantastic. So 0 for 2. But here's the thing with Kump. Playing center is a little bit different than guard. Because when you're playing guard, you can rely on what the center's doing. You can rely on what's going on. The center is the quarterback of the offensive line. And he's playing with one hand behind his back most of the time because he's got to get the ball to the quarterback. So that initial punch is very difficult. He's the one that's identifying the 5 most dangerous guys. He's the one telling the guards to tell the tackles what's going on. There's a lot of things that come with being a center. And Jaron Kump, coming out of high school, he was a tackle. He didn't get reps in center one time when he was at Harriman. I guarantee you that. And so with that, it's a learning process. When I first started skiing as a child, I wasn't good my first time around. Now I think I could keep up with Coach Whittingham. And Jaron Kump, same thing. When he first started at center, wasn't great. I'll give you that. But if he's holding off Johnny Maya, who I love, you're going to see a great, great competition at center. And whoever wins is going to be leading that team to quite possibly a Big 12 championship.
That's another great point of because it's true. I really like Johnny Maya. I feel like he should be the starter. Well, if Kump's beating him out, then obviously he's done enough there to pass him up. So I hope that is the case. Also, I'm very glad you made the ski analogy. I thought you were going to backtrack to your little league days of snapping and your growth as center as well. So I appreciate that you shook it up a little bit there, my friend.
If people meet me in public, they'd be like, "Nah, you never played center." I'm like, I've been this size since I was 6. Give me a break.
I wish people didn't assume I played on the offensive line all the time. Anyway, so that's going to do it for our offensive line portion of this, but still need to get Moose's thoughts on what he saw in the first week of the Utah high school football season, as well as get a bold prediction from him on what we're going to see from Utah football in 2024. We still got a lot coming up on Locked On Utes, but first, we have to talk with you all about our great friends at Game Time. College football is back, and I can't wait to get out to Wistrcill Stadium and all of the other great college football games that are going on across the country. We have a lot of new Big 12 stadiums that we can check out, new venues where we're going to get to see our Utah Utes play. So if you guys are looking for the best ticketing app to find tickets to go to your college football games, that's where Game Time comes in, because Game Time has a new feature called Game Picks that make getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Picks filters out stuff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Game Time also has so many amazing features, like a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy, so you know exactly what kind of a view you're getting for when you make your ticket investment. Also, how about that low price guarantee, where Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference? Your Game Time ticket coverage is also there, where your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. You can take the guesswork out of buying concert tickets with Game Time. You can download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE. That is capital L, O for on, and C of college for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Before we talk high school football, to put a really quick, brief bow on the offensive line conversation, I feel like the Utah offensive line is going to have a good year. I think they will be better than last year's offensive line overall. The reason it's still a question is we just haven't, I don't think that's a crazy high bar. We could talk about that another time. But this Utah offensive line, to me, I think that they will come together over the course of the season. I think the young players having time to grow and develop. It's still a question to me just because we haven't seen it and the play last year at times. I mean, look, PFF had them ranked as their second worst pass blocking grade. That's, to me, is a little harsh, but anytime you're at the bottom all the way down there, shows you they weren't doing something right last year. So I just want to see them put it all together, but I have confidence in the coaches and players in the room, so I think they'll figure it out, Moose.
I agree. One little caveat there. How mobile were the quarterbacks last year?
Nate Johnson was mobile, but they didn't really let him run. And Bryson Barnes is a pig farmer, so not very mobile.
Okay. How mobile is Isaac Wilson and Cam Rising?
Hopefully Cam's pretty mobile still. He is normally mobile. I'm still curious. I'm just curious how much we'll see him move around. But you're right. He's a much better scrambler and comfortable running around behind the line of scrimmage. So you're right. And Isaac was fantastic at that in college.
Yeah, and that's what we're looking for. Quarterbacks that can buy time. When Nate's getting told don't run, and then it's like don't run, don't run, don't run, don't run, he's not going to run, and he's going to stand in there as well. So that makes it a lot more difficult. And so that's the other caveat that's going to come in. I think we've got probably a top 25 passing line and probably a top 10 running line at the end of the season.
I agree with that. I do think they will end up there as well, too. So hey, we agree on something with the offensive line. So I'm excited to see that.
Let's go!
I'm excited to see that all come to fruition. You mentioned Isaac Wilson. He obviously tore it up on the high school scene last fall, but now he's gone. We got some new faces, some old ones. Jerome Miles, we're really hoping comes up to Wistrcill Stadium very soon. Moose, you cover high school football each and every week. What were your biggest takeaways from week one, and who are some of the recruits that Utah fans should be keeping an eye on?
I mean, week one was just amazing. We had a plethora of kids throw for 6 touchdowns, a bunch for 5. I mean, Helaman Kasuga, 482 yards, 6 touchdowns was crazy. You're just like, oh my gosh. There's another kid that's kind of interesting. If you really love pig farming, go down to Manti with Mason Starkweather. For receiving, of course, Jerome Miles. Everyone's watching him, including the other team who's trying to bracket him and it has cloud coverage, which allowed Krishawn Lee at Corner Canyon to have 265 yards and 5 touchdowns, which is absolutely nuts. And talking about receivers, did you know Utah just offered a receiver within the last 10 minutes?
I did not.
Cash Tice, Taise, T-A-I-E-S-E, out of American Fork. The freshman receiver who played against Corner Canyon. Utah was watching that game, and they're like, he's a freshman. Let's give him an offer. Let's go. He had a great game, almost 100 yards and a touchdown. Then for running backs, another kid that Utah should look out for, Brighton Brady from Corner Canyon, 282 yards and 3 touchdowns. He's given me a lot of Covey vibes, to be honest with you. And I'm like, dude, this kid is the truth. Devon Ika did really good at Lehigh, 177 yards, 3 touchdowns. Cannon Huntsman out of American Leadership Academy. This kid is everything you want, but he's still he's at a lower level. But 282 total yards, 3 touchdowns, absolute dog. And D-line, we have to look out and have a Bot Muitalo and an Ami Mawala. I watched both of them live. They were worth the price of admission. I'm like, both of these guys are major D1 guys. And if Utah wants to continue their streak of having great D-lines, they have to land those 2 guys in the 26 class. So those are guys that I really like. And I was really impressed with Deshaun Toolio for Skyridge. He had a great game as well. For linebacker, I was really impressed with Tyler Payne. 15 tackles, just doing what he does. A lot of Utah fans won't care about that. But for defensive backs, it was pretty interesting. There were a lot of good defensive back plays, including Jaden Mayberry. He's someone that you guys should keep an eye on. Had an interception return for a touchdown, 5 tackles. Kingston Mickens had 2 interceptions and played really well. There's just a lot of guys that played really well. And for special teams, there was some great return touchdowns. Tavian Edwards, Colby Freugner of Roy, great punter. Riley Whitaker, great punter. Will Walker, great punter. I'm going to give the special teams a shout out. I don't care. And I was really impressed with Bo LaFleur from Brighton with 2 interceptions, 2 touchdowns, and 9 tackles as well. So still kind of going through film. Corner Canyon is who we thought they were. I think they've got a good chance of beating IMG, to be honest with you, if their defense can come together. There's a lot of out-of-state games this week, but I'm just excited to see what happens.
That was a fantastic breakdown, Moose. I should have known you'd work special teams in there as well, but some of those guys might end up coming up to you. So I definitely think it was worth the run down there, and excited to see a lot of those guys, especially Muitalo and Moala. Those guys have been broke out since they were like freshmen. We knew they were amazing. So really looking forward to seeing the players they develop and how their recruitment develops, because the players, and especially like 2026 class, those are the guys, the juniors. After this is when a lot of their recruiting really picks up. So something fun to keep an eye on with the group for sure. Moose, we broke down the offensive line. We broke down high school football in the state of Utah. And as we are less than a week away from Utah's first game, all week long, I've been asking my guests to give a bold prediction about Utah's 2024 season. What is your bold prediction for Utah this fall?
Bold prediction. Let's see. I think that we're going to have...
Okay, this is where you act like I didn't text you earlier that I was going to ask you this question. You act like I put you on the spot when I sent you a show rundown.
Hey, I just want everyone thinking, oh, he's just getting this off the top of his head. Yeah. You ruined the mystery. So, bold predictions. I think we have a Davey O'McKay Award winner in our tight end. I think any one of those guys could win that. But I think I don't see them losing more than 1 game, honestly. My bold prediction was they go undefeated going into the playoffs.
You're bold. You have Utah going undefeated in the Big 12 and winning the Big 12 title game.
I mean, they're playing 3 ranked teams. I think they have the easiest road to the Big 12 title game, honestly. Mm-hmm. And I think they're going to hit all these teams at the right time and crescendo into the playoffs.
That is a great note No pun intended. Okay, maybe it was to end the podcast on with crescendo thrown out there as well. Would love to see that happen. Can't wait for the season to get rolling this fall. Moose, always appreciate you stopping by. You are incredibly busy, but you offer great insight. So please let everyone know where they can get more of your stuff.
Yeah, just follow me on Twitter at MooseB90. We actually just went through re-released recruiting for parents. So if you guys want to be an expert in recruiting, we're going to have that for $497. And it actually takes you step by step through the recruiting process. So if you have a freshman, let's get them in recruiting for parents. Let's know exactly what to do. So your kid could be the next Bob Muitalo or Hilami Kasuga or whoever else.
Yeah, make sure you guys head over today. Check that out. Give Moose that follow on X. Also, because we mentioned KSL Sports Rewind, would be remiss if I did not say shout out to Dusty Litster. Great seeing him back putting out a video this week with the Rewind Sports Network. So excited for him to get back rolling with them this fall. You guys always do a great job. Moose, thank you again for stopping by, and best of luck with your game this week too.
Oh, let's go see what happens at Orem and AF. Lots of Utah kids could be there.
Yeah, that'll be a fun one. You guys can either listen to it on KSL Sports Rewind or just drive out there and check it out in person as well. That's going to do it for today's edition of Locked On Utes. Big thanks to Moose again for stopping by, and can't wait to break down Utah's matchup with the Thunderbirds. It's going to be absolutely electric, but enjoying your last weekend without Utah football for a very long time. I know it's a Thursday game next week, but you all know what I mean. Thank you all for checking out Locked On Utes.